Hello, everyone. This is Software Journey with Learn to Code with me. And today I want to describe why I believe Bitcoin will be 100,000 in 2025 and why I'm also confident that Bitcoin will be $1 million in 2029. So this is my bull case on why Bitcoin is going to increase in value. And in order to really understand that, you also have to understand how Bitcoin essentially functions. Did you know that Bitcoin will actually have a 21 million supply or a finite supply? That is that there's going to be a total of 21 million Bitcoin that ever exists out there. And that's really it. There's no more that will ever be created after that. As it stands, you can check out Bitcoin halvings and see that the current amount of Bitcoin that's out there in the public is 19 million. So 19,053,000. And the amount that's left to mine, the amount that's left to have is about 2 million. But all in all, there's only going to be about 21 million Bitcoin. And you might say, like, how does that really work? I don't really, perhaps you have would like a better understanding of Bitcoin itself. And in order to kind of understand that, you need to understand that really how mining works and how this relates to Bitcoin mining. So the first thing that I want to mention is that Bitcoin miners, what they do is every 10 minutes at the moment, as it stands in this year, 2022, every 10 minutes, Bitcoin miners receive 6.25. So let me just write that down. 6.25 Bitcoin as a reward for validating a block. So a block is just a set of financial transactions that took place with Bitcoin. But just know that every 10 minutes, they validate a block. They do some math with their ASIC miners. They find a secret value that goes ahead and sets it to conform to a specific number of zeros. You don't have to worry about all of this that goes on behind the scenes. Just know that they find a secret value every 10 minutes, and they get as a reward 6.25 Bitcoin. That's it. But that seems kind of strange, right? 6.25 Bitcoin. Why that number, right? It's a little bit obscure. And that's because all of this actually started with 50 Bitcoin. So if you go to Bitcoin halvings, you can see that it originally started prior to 2012. Every time a Bitcoin miner would validate a set of transactions or a block, they would get 50 Bitcoin as a reward. And then what happens is every 4 years, it halves the amount of reward. So, and then the first halving that took place was in 2012. And you can see that at this time, prior to the halving, it was 50, and then it turned into 25. In 2016, you could see that prior to the halving, it was 25, and then it turned into 12 and a half. So all you're doing is you're just dividing it by 2. So 50 divided by 2, you get 25. 25 divided by 2, you get 12.5. 12.5 divided by 2 more recently, which just took place 2 years ago in 2020. The reward for these miners decreased by half as well. So 12 and a half Bitcoin to 6.25. Now, as you can see, this is what's happening. If we were to extrapolate this to the future, you would see that in 2024, you would have 6.25 divided by 2, and you would see that's 3.125 Bitcoin. And so in 2024, they're only going to be receiving about 3 Bitcoin as a reward. And then if you were to half that as a result, 3.125 divided that by 2, you would see that that's about 1.5 Bitcoin that they would receive in 2028. And I'm just going to take this one step further. If you were to have that just one more time in 2032, so by the year 2032, you're going to receive less than 1 Bitcoin as a Bitcoin miner. You're only going to receive 0.78. Let's call it 0.8 Bitcoin, just to round up, as a reward every 10 minutes. And eventually this is going to continue. This is logarithmic in nature with a base 2. So that's just kind of math to say that over time that this continues to halve. And if we look at one of these logarithmic charts, you'll see that they taper off. They eventually reach a specific value. So let's look at a better chart. So in this case, you could see that it increases at first, by a large amount, and then it starts to taper off. It starts to plateau. And so in this case, it's going to taper off at the value 2. So you can see that that's generally how logarithms work. But for Bitcoin specifically, this wouldn't be a 2, this would be 21 million. And that would be the total number of Bitcoin that you're ever going to produce. I hope that kind of makes sense. Essentially, we're in 2140, we're eventually going to mine all of those Bitcoin. But for the most part, we're going to have all the Bitcoin that we need within the next 2 decades. Within the next decade, I would say a lot of the Bitcoin actually already. As you can see, we're already at 19 million. So within the next decade, we should have, a huge portion of that. So it's after that, it's just going to be a minor amount. And I won't get into the discussion about how minor fees work and all of that. But just know that this is going to be the main thesis as to why I think Bitcoin value will increase dramatically within the next decade. And so now that you have kind of a rough understanding, you don't have to have a full understanding, but just at least kind of an idea of what the Bitcoin halving looks like and how that's taken place over time and what that's going to look like in 2025 and 2029, right? Or 2024 and 2028. We're going to be able to go to my thesis now. So let's just look at this. In 2012, we can see that the value of Bitcoin was about $12 on halving day. And then half a year later, all of these took place, by the way, around in the summer. So this took place in 2012 of the summer. And so if you were to look at it 150 days later, so in December at about the end of the year, so let's just call this 2013, you could see that it increased in value. So it appreciated a little bit. So I'm just going to consider this as, instead of 2012, I'm just going to add 1 year to it, right? 6 months. So this is going to be 2013. So in 2013, it was about $100. Let's just call it that. In 2017, right? So once again, 2016 plus the 6 months. So now in 2017, we see that it's around $800, right? 760. Okay, perfect. And then in 2021, we see that we have about $11,000 per coin. Okay, so that's fine, but this is about, I'm gonna go ahead and round these values roughly to say that this is $100, this is $1,000, and this is $10,000. Now, if we were to continue, if we were to extrapolate this to the next 4 years, right, so 2025, we would see that it stands to reason that the Bitcoin in 2025 should be 100K a piece. And if we were to take this one step further and we were to say, okay, in 2025, it's 100K. And then in 2029, stands to reason that if it were to increase by tenfold as well, then 100K times 10, that's $1 million in 2029. And so that's, for that reason, I think that Bitcoin is going to be 100,000 pretty soon. And for that reason, I also believe that Bitcoin is going to be $1 million within this decade. And once again, these are just my personal opinions. This is not financial advice, but this is for this reason. That's why I'm loading the boat. That's why I'm spending most of my money on not necessarily Bitcoin directly, but Bitcoin miners. Now you might be saying, well, why is that, right? It doesn't really make too much sense. Well, it does. It does. It's because Bitcoin miners are a leverage play on Bitcoin. What that means is I could spend some money. Let's say, for example, I could spend some money and buy Bitcoin directly or buy Ethereum directly, all of these, the two kings of the crypto mining space. But what I could do instead is I could just pay and buy pieces of a company that will continue mining Bitcoin every single day. They have their infrastructure set up. They're essentially printing out a Bitcoin every single month, right? Specifically, I like Hive and Riot. Those are my two favorite. Hive, mining 450 Bitcoin a month. Riot mining about 500 Bitcoin a month as it stands. That's not including their increase in value. But what's more important as well is they already have a lot of Bitcoin on their balance sheet. They're, so to speak, they're hodling a lot of Bitcoin. And what happens is as the price of Bitcoin appreciates, all of that money on their balance sheet is going to appreciate as well. And what they do with that money, I'm not sure. They can go ahead and provide that as a dividend, or I'm not entirely sure. But what I do know is that as a company earns more money, as it becomes more valuable, right, its market cap will increase. That just stands to reason. So for that reason, I'm placing all my money in Bitcoin miners. Specifically, what I'm a fan of is Hive and Riot. And I know that they're going to be huge benefactors of the increase in Bitcoin in 2025 and more so in 2029. So I think that that's kind of my ticket to having astronomical gains. At the same time, I'm also taking a smart approach, or what I believe a hedge against a hedge as well, which is just selling covered calls in the meanwhile, while we're having this decline in Bitcoin price. But good news today, we also saw that Bitcoin is stabilized around 30K. So it went to like 28 to 30. That's fine. I don't really care about the short-term volatility. What I care is how is it going to be impacted in the long run? And you might say, why would you think that this this Bitcoin is going to increase in price anyways? look at it historically. It's 10x, and that's because the more people that get involved, the more people that want a piece of something with a finite supply. So it's just increased demand, but only a finite supply. Then just prices tend to shoot up, right? It's simple economics. And whether you believe in Bitcoin as a as a system, that's a different point. I'm just more focused on its increase in value and its increase in valuation. So let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think that this seems reasonable, that my projections make sense? Let me know if perhaps you learned a thing or two with the Bitcoin halvings and essentially how Bitcoin mining works. If anyone's interested in learning a bit more particulars, actually, let me add that as just a bonus piece. Just know that if you're interested in the next halving Bitcoin, you can see that that's going to take place in 2024. There's actually some clocks that are available. You can see that this is targeted to 2024 next summer, roughly 2 years from now. So, about 700 days is 2 years. So this is about 2 years away. And you can see that, yeah, the total amount of Bitcoin is 19 million. The max supply that we're going to have is 21 million. And every 10 minutes, one block is validated, which means every 10 minutes, 6.25 Bitcoin is provided. Now, every block is defined as 210, or sorry, every halving takes place every 210,000 blocks. And we said that every block gets confirmed every 10 minutes. So the way just to convert this from blocks to minutes is just multiply by 10, right? So that's simple. So now we have minutes. So if we go ahead and perform this calculation, this is the amount of minutes that it takes for each halving. So now it's a simple conversion to convert from minutes to years, just in case anyone's interested in the math. If you're not interested, I completely understand. Please share, please hit the like and subscribe button. But I just want to make sure for anyone who's interested in the math, go ahead and take a look. So now that we're in minutes, let's convert to hours. Converting to hours, or sorry, yeah, it's converting to hours. Oh, sorry, I made a mistake here. Let's go back. Let's just recalculate that. Sorry about that. Minutes to hours is just going to be dividing by 60. Don't know why I made that mistake. Apologize. So that's this is the number of hours. Let's go ahead and divide it into days. Divide by 24. This is the number of days, and let's go ahead and divide it by years. So 365 years or days in a year. And we can see that that's about every 4 years Bitcoin halving takes place. Those are just some simple mathematics, just in case anyone was interested. Once again, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed. Please let me know what you would like to see. I'm going to go ahead and keep pumping out that content. Like it, like, share, and subscribe if you did. And I hope to see you soon.